everyone, this is Payanna and welcome to my book club. And I have done it, I have got my shit together and I'm gonna film a video. Because my life has been so complicated these past few days, and today I was freaking out because I was hoovering, and whenever I hoover, my cat Hodor gets terrified and runs off and hides somewhere, and after I finished I always try and find him and reassure him, and after I'd finished hoovering I just couldn't find him. I didn't know where he was. He's usually under the bed, but he wasn't there, he wasn't behind the sofa. So I lay down on the bed and I thought he'll probably turn up sooner or later. Only when I lay down on the bed, there was this kind of pile of cushions on the bed that I was using as an armrest, and after about 20 minutes it started purring. So I used Hodor as an armrest, literally. He didn't seem to mind, but yeah. So today's video is about Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey, and yeah, I didn't really know how to tackle this because this is the first book in the Dragonriders of Pern series, which is an insanely long series. And what I wanted to do was read the first trilogy, Dragonflight, Dragon Quest, and the White Dragon, which I have right here. Only book 1 and book 2 kind of follow on from each other, but book 3 is about completely different characters. So yeah, I'll just do one book at a time. I also wanted to wait until I'd finished Temeraire to start filming videos about this, but you know what the hell, I'm just gonna do this now. The cushion, because I'm not high enough. This is, look at this cute, look how cute this is. Cuteness cushion. Aww. So the books I've been reading lately have just been so good. Like, I hadn't read anything this good for ages. I'm still super excited about Temeraire, and you know, I haven't been that excited about a book series since Harry Potter and Sergei Lukianenko's Watch series. And this was pretty much the same. I just read it all in one go. It's not very long. My copy is not even 300 pages long, I think. But it is so packed with information. And I just read it all in like a few hours. And then I just went, oh shit, I didn't take any notes. So I sat down day before yesterday and read it again. And guess what? I still didn't take any notes. Because I'm an idiot. The interesting thing about this novel is it doesn't kind of take place in a fantasy world that's just like another fantasy world. It actually takes place on another planet. So you've got this like kind of history of this world at the beginning, where we're told that humans tried to populate other planets and did populate other planets, only they kind of lost contact with them, and then the inhabitants of those planets were just left to kind of fend for themselves. It was kind of reminiscent of Dune, only I think this came out before Dune. This was published in 1968, if I'm not mistaken. When was Dune published? This is my copy of Dune. It's so old. It's just ridiculous. 65, yeah. Reminiscent of Dune. The thing about Anne McCaffrey is she made her writing career out of creating very strong female characters, like female lead characters in sci-fi and fantasy novels. I think her first novel was like she wrote it because she was just so annoyed that all these sci-fi novels were all about men and the women in them were just there to be pretty and yay. So she wrote a novel in the early 1960s with a female hero, a sci-fi novel, and this kind of follows in that vein because we are introduced to a very strong female character in this, but more on that later. So this is set on a planet called Pern, where the people who live there have managed to genetically engineer dragons. And these dragons are very important in the life on Pern, because periodically the red star appears, and when the red star comes within a certain distance of Pern, there are these things that fall from the sky called threads, and they are very, very destructive. They essentially suck up the life force of anything organic, so plants, animals. They just kill everything, and the dragons are employed to essentially burn them out of the sky. So whenever the threads appear, the dragons come down and burn all the threads and keep the land safe. However, it's been 400 years since the threads have come, and people have pretty much forgotten about them, and even the man who's in charge of the dragons doesn't believe they're ever going to come again. They think that's it. No more threads, that's over with. But then the red star appears, and the book starts with this girl called Lessa, who is a servant girl in a fort. Only she is the descendant of the lord who used to run the fort. Only he and her entire family have been slaughtered by a horrible man who's taken over a fort and several other forts, and she's the last surviving member of her family, and she should be the normal heir of the fort. And this happened 10 years before, and during this time she has been hiding in the guise of a simple serving girl, and she's been quietly plotting her revenge. And very early on in this book we get to see how cunning and just subtle she is, because she is reminiscing at one point about one of the warders of this fort, and how he was a great man, and he was very smart, and he was very efficient, only he was too smart and too efficient, and he would have caught her, so he had to go. And, you know, just her pulling the strings behind the curtains and making things move along in her own interest. And she does this so well. And what I really appreciate about this novel is, like I said, it's not very long, but it is very specific. Like, we're not given a lot of information. We're just given, like, very targeted, very precise pieces of information that build up a rather strong profile for Lessa very, very early on. So the man who's in charge of all these forts, all these holds, as they call them in the book, a man called Fax, is visited by a group of dragon riders led by a dragon rider named Fla and his dragon Nementh. And they are looking for women, strong women, to come look after the new dragon queen who's about to hatch. And so the second character that we get to follow in this book is Fla, the dragon rider. And he's also a very interesting character. He's also very subtle. And he's kind of looking through all of Fax's women, and they're all being treated really poorly. Like, Fax is a terrible, terrible leader. He's a very tyrannical man. He's very cruel. And so they visit all his different holds and finally get to the one where Lessa is living. Now, the thing about Lessa, all the holds, all the forts, they have these creatures called watchwares, and they're not really dragons. They're kind of small, very weak dragons, dragon-like creatures, and they're only employed as, like, guard dogs, basically. They're supposed to alert the people of the hold when there's some kind of danger. And Lessa can communicate with this creature. She has like this telepathic connection with it, and she can talk to it in her mind. And she considers this creature to be her only friend. And when Fla and Fax arrive at the hold, Fla can sense that there's a person there who's got some kind of magical abilities or telepathic abilities, and he tries to find this person because obviously he knows that this person would make a great dragon woman, or were-woman as they call them. And eventually he finds Lesser, and the interesting thing is Lesser actually utilizes the dragon men and their presence there in order to try and push her plans along for regaining control of the hold, which she does. However, once her plan comes to light, Fleur comes to her and says, well, you know what? Okay, you've got your revenge now, and what are you going to do now? And she doesn't know, because she's only spent the previous 10 years of her life thinking about her revenge and not thinking about what she would do once she'd gone through with that revenge. So he proposes to take her to the where the dragons are, and be the next were woman for the Dragon Queen. And Lesser, I mean, she seems very confused by this. I'm not entirely clear on whether she agreed or not, but she does go and becomes the new dragon lady. The new dragon queen is called Ramoth, and she's this huge golden dragon. She grows up to be immense, and she pairs up with Fleur's dragon Nementh. And everything goes well. Lesser is taught how to be a werewoman, how she learns all the traditions of the Dragonriders. Only she gets very quickly frustrated because they, like the Dragonriders, rely on songs a lot. And these songs are kind of passed down and tell their traditional stories. However, she struggles to make sense of a lot of them, and it gets a bit odd for her. Also, she's frustrated because they won't let the Dragon Queen fly. They won't let her out of the were, and they won't let her fly. And obviously Lesser is very annoyed about this because she gets to see all the young dragon riders practicing and flying around and teleporting themselves, because they can also teleport. They go into this kind of parallel in-between world, which is called Between, and they can go like from one place to another instantaneously. And she really wants to learn how to do that, and she manages to convince Fleur to teach her how to fly and teach her how to go between and travel and teleport herself with her dragon. They seem a bit like reluctant to do this, and because she hasn't kind of had that education and gone through spent her life learning these things, she tries out something new, discovers that her dragon doesn't only have the ability to teleport itself, but also to travel in time. She can also communicate with all of the dragons. Normally, like every dragon rider can communicate with their own dragon. They have these telepathic connections, but she can talk to all of them. And so yeah, that's another kind of very individual skill that she has. And obviously they find ways of utilizing all of this, because it comes very much in handy when the threads finally do appear, and turns out they've not gone away. And I really, really love scenes where they're kind of preparing battles, usually like battles against an opposing force. In this case, it's battles against these weird, horrible tendrils that fall from the sky. And that Fleur does, who becomes the leader of the dragon were at this point, and he summons all the master craftsmen. So you've got the blacksmith, you've got a master harper, the ones who write the songs, you've got lords from various holds, you've got what else have you got? Farmers, I think? Weavers. Lots. He gets all the master craftsmen to have this great big meeting and sit down and think about how they can deal with the threads, because the dragons deal with them from the sky by setting fire to them. But what happens, obviously they can't get all of them. Some of them fall to the ground and start sucking up the life of trees and crops and everything. So they need to find a way of tackling them once they hit the ground. And also there's not enough dragons to deal with all of them, because there used to be 6 dragonwares, I think, and for some reason 400 years before, 5 of them just vanished. And this is a kind of recurring mystery that they mention all the way through this book. Like, where did they go? No one knows. They just disappeared one day. No one knows why, and they don't know where they went. And that's a big mystery. So there's only been 1 dragonware since then, and they have to deal with this massive threat. Unless it comes up with she figures out what happened to the other dragonwares and figures out a way of stopping the threads. And another thing I really liked about this novel is how the characters are written, because, I mean, Lesser's this really, like, rebellious, very assertive, very intelligent, very cunning female lead character, and she's just amazing. But Fleur, I thought he was very interesting because he is very subtle. I mean, obviously he comes across as this very arrogant warrior who's like full of himself. He knows how brilliant he is. But he's got a kind of subtle side to him. He obviously has to work with Lesser a lot, him being the were leader and she's the were woman. They have to work together a lot. But he really does develop a very, very strong emotional attachment to her. He's very, very much in love with her. And so you have this kind of underlying romance going on, and it's subtle, and I appreciate that. It's not like in your face, oh, here's a romance subplot. It's not like that. It's very subtle. Obviously, Lesser is interested in him because they sleep together on a number of occasions. But it's not, like, obviously about the emotions. But she does get very jealous. At one point, there's another woman who's interested in him. And it's very subtle. It's like implied that she's jealous of this woman and she's annoyed that she's taken an interest in Fleur. And he's never very open about his feelings for her. But but towards the end, like, it becomes more and more obvious because he starts getting angry with her and, like, trying to stop her from doing things. But he's not angry because, you know, like the previous leader was angry with her because she was trying to break with tradition. He's angry with her because he's afraid of her getting hurt and he wants to protect her. Only he doesn't know how to express this other than by kind of grabbing her and saying, no, don't do this. So you have some amusing scenes like that. And also there's this brilliant scene where she's asleep and he kind of comes down and sits next to her and he starts stroking her hair and kissing her. And there's this little line where it says he would never have kind of shown this much tenderness when she was awake, because he doesn't want her to see him this way. He's this big, strong, you know, leader. He's not an emotional character, even though he is on the inside. So I really appreciated that side of him. He also came across, like, at the beginning, he came across as a character who had a lot of empathy. Like, he really didn't like Fax and how he was treating his women and how he was dealing with his holds. And obviously there was nothing that he could directly do about it until Lesser kind of came along, pulled her strings, and got Fax to engage with Fleur in a duel, where Fleur then kills him. So she is so good at manipulating her environment. And even from the beginning, like, he's so impressed with her when he finds out everything she's been doing for all these 10 years, and he's like, wow, she's gonna make such a good werewoman, she's so amazing. So he is kind of infatuated with her at the beginning because of her subtleness, her cunning, her intelligence, and then he ends up developing genuine feelings for her. So it's a, interesting kind of development of these characters. The one thing I would criticize about this book is the timeline in it. I found a bit confusing because there are, like, these gigantic leaps in time. So you've got Lesser, then she gets taken to the were, then she's taught how to be a werewoman, then the dragon eggs hatch, and then she bonds with her dragon. And then like 2 years go by, and it's just like one line where you've got, oh yeah, in the space of the past 2 years, this has been going on. And it wasn't that obvious reading, like, that anything had happened, be it through the relationship of the characters, how they were talking, how they were behaving. And then again later on, there's like another big leap where another year goes by. So that was the only thing I had a bit of an issue with that the first time I was reading it. I was like, wait, hang on, what? 2 years have gone by? But, you know, reading it the second time, I kind of knew it was coming, and it wasn't so much of an issue. So, yes. Dragonflight. The world building was really good, written in that same, I'm giving you small bits of information, but, like, very precise bits of information. And the world does expand a lot, especially in, like, the next 2 novels, or are they? I don't know what I've done with them, but yeah. The next 2 novels, the world expands a lot. You get to see different facets of different people's lives there. I'm still waiting for the Harper Hall trilogy, which is the trilogy that followed this one. Although I think it's in a different timeline. I've got, where is it? Oh, I don't know where my books are. Here they are. I've got the Dragon Drums, which is the 3rd one of the trilogy. Because of the virus, my book orders are still all over the place. I'm still getting books that I ordered 3 months ago, and not in the order I ordered them. Like, it's, yeah. So I've got at least another 2 books I can do. Yeah, I don't know how this series is going to go. But I'm going to do the same thing as I did with Temeraire. I'm going to make a playlist and do them all. I'm going to do them all in order of publication. So not necessarily in chronicle order. So that's it for this video. Overall, greatly enjoyed this novel. And greatly enjoy this world. This is amazing. So yes, a truly stunning work of classic fantasy / sci-fi in Anne McCaffrey. I do strongly recommend her work. She's an extraordinary writer, and I'd never read Pern before. I'd read some of her sci-fi novels years ago. I need to read them again. But I feel like she's one of these, like, authors who put so many, like, implemented so many things in the fantasy universe and the sci-fi universe, and she is just not talked about a lot. I don't see a lot of booktubers talking about her, and I think that's unfortunate. So do definitely go read her books if you haven't already read them, and let's talk more about this author, because if you're a fantasy nerd or a sci-fi nerd, you really should read this. So that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this. I will be back at some point for Dragon Quest once I've got some kind of organisation in my chaotic book TBR pile. Once, I don't know, I need to organise stuff, basically. But yeah, I'll see you all soon then. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe.